Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. And I'm your host, Frank Rampin. And we have finally come to the end of the MLB season. The regular season has come and gone. Yesterday was the final Sunday of the regular season. Today would be Monday, October 2nd. The A's played one game of October baseball because everyone did, October 1st. And now we'll get into the real October baseball. But as the season wrapped up, a lot of storylines that happened. Postseason picture has been completed. Legends leaving the game, and a bunch of milestones were reached in the last week of the season. So we're going to get into that now, as this is going to be our sort of a end of the season recap, postseason look ahead preview. So we're going to get right into it right now, and we'll start with the legends of the sport that we have lost. We'll start with one that we've lost tragically. Tim Wakefield passing the other day due to brain cancer. Tragic, very sad to hear. Thoughts and prayers out to his wife, who is also suffering from pancreatic cancer. So thoughts and prayers up to the Wakefield family. Tim Wakefield, legend, one of the best knuckleballers of all time, probably the best knuckleballer of all time. Unbelievable career. He's in the Hall of Fame. So remember Tim Wakefield today in your thoughts. But speaking of legends, we'll move on to the legends who are moving on throughout the baseball world, retiring out of their career. And we'll start with one of the greatest hitters in the history of the sport. 3,000 hits, 500 home runs. He hit number 511 this week. Over 300 career batting average. There's only 3 players in the history of baseball to do it. Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, and Miguel Cabrera. So Miggy retiring. Very emotional last homestand for him in Detroit. Sellout crowds for every game of the year. Probably their only sellouts of the entire season for every game for this last homestand for him. And he actually was, in his last at-bat, he was walked on 4 pitches, which was kind of unfortunate. But, of course, Miggy, the team guy, he's not swinging anything out of the zone. He's taking his walk. He's going to go to first. And I thought that they were going to pinch run for him and give him his moment and pinch run for him, have him come off the field, get a standing ovation his one last time. But they kept him in. Ended up grounding into double play, the next batter. Miguel Cabrera went out to first base for the first time in his career since 2021. Miguel Cabrera played first base for one batter, and the second pitch of the at-bat to Stephen Kwan, who was that batter, tops one over to first. Of course, Miggy scoops it up on the backhand, holds up a finger, runs over to first. 3 unassisted. Then they take Miggy out. His kids come on the field. A.J. Hinch brings his kids out with him. Beautiful standing ovation for him. So, of course, the baseball gods are there. Send a ground ball right Miggy's way, 2 pitches in, and the only batter he was at first base for, of course, hits a ground ball to him. So storybook ending for him. He homered earlier, like I said, number 511. And, one of the legends of the sport, maybe the greatest hitter, him and Pujols, 2 greatest hitters that I've ever seen in my life. Triple Crown winner, 2012. And, funny story, he played first base with Spencer Torkelson's glove, because I said he hadn't played first base in 2 years before that. Didn't have a glove. So he used Spencer Torkelson's glove, and after, he signed the glove. He wrote Miguel Cabrera, Triple Crown champ 2012, MVP 12-13, 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, 12-time All-Star, whatever batting champ. Such an awesome glove now that Spencer Torkelson gets to have, that Miggy made to play with, his last play of his career. Awesome stuff there from Miggy. Great stuff from the crowd, too. They love him there. Of course, how can you not love Miggy? Won a World Series with the Marlins in 03 when he was a baby. Another legend that's leaving our sport, Joey Votto, and he left in not so sweet of a way. His last at bat at Citizens Bank Park in Cincinnati was not Citizens Bank Park, Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati was fun, but their last game was in St. Louis, and Joey Votto was actually ejected in the second inning of his last career game potentially. So, not the ending you'd like to see for Joey Votto. Adam Wainwright, another star who's gone. Adam Wainwright actually got to hit in his last at-bat. He ended up striking out, but he was able to get the at-bat. And the night before, Busch Stadium had a concert starring Adam Wainwright. He sold out Busch Stadium to do a country concert, so that's pretty cool. And Zach Greinke had 5 scoreless innings yesterday against the New York Yankees in his last start of his career. And he finishes with 22 strikeouts shy of 3,000 out for the career. Pretty crazy stuff. 4 legends of the game leaving, and an already Hall of Famer who we've lost. So a lot of legends leaving the sport of baseball in more ways than one. This season had a lot of wild statistics, wild numbers. We've been talking about the Braves all year long. Ronald Acuna, first ever 40-70 season. He ends up with 72 steals, ties the franchise record. Matt Olson, he ends his season with 139 RBIs. That's a Braves franchise record. 139 RBIs is ridiculous. And the Atlanta Braves as a team tied the all-time record for home runs in a season with 307. They tied the Bomba Squad, the 2019 Minnesota Twins, and they were able to do that in the ninth inning of the last game of the season off of Marcell Ozuna's 40th home run of the year. A couple good things for the Oakland A's here. In the last game of the regular season, Estier Ruiz broke the all-time American League rookie stolen base record with his 67th of the year. He did it on a steal of third. After he already got picked off in the game, he got the second on a balk. Then he still steals third to break the American League rookie record. 67 passes Kenny Lofton, who had 66 in 1992. And Brent Rooker, the only A's All-Star from this season, hit his 30th home run of the season in his final at-bat of the year. So, a little cherry on top for the 50 in 112 book completed for the 2023 Oakland Athletics. But two things to hold your head on there. And Corbin Carroll became the first player in the history of baseball to have 10 or more triples, 25 or more homers, and 50 or more steals in a single season. And this is his first season in the league. So Corbin Carroll is just unbelievable. Very exciting to see him play. Can't wait to see what that's going to be. And so now that we have the whole season over with, let's talk about the predictions that I made about halfway through the season, a little bit after the All-Star break. See how they held up, see how well they didn't hold up. Because I made division predictions for every single division in July. So starting with the American League East, my pick was the Baltimore Orioles. I said that they were going to come in and take over the Rays, and honestly, it happened way sooner than I thought. I kind of thought it was going to be the end of the season thing, but they came in hot, took it over in the middle of the year, or maybe end of July, beginning of August, and they never looked back. 100 wins for the franchise for the first time since, I believe, 1983, which is the year they won the World Series. So, 1 for 1 here. And obviously, I had to pick the Atlanta Braves, so the East, we're looking good so far. So 2 for 2. I got the O's and the Braves. The Central, look at this. I picked the Twins. We're 3 for 3. That one was kind of a toss-up. I didn't really know where to go there, and the only reason I really took the Twins was because they were leading at the time, and they really were leading the whole year. They never really stopped because that division was so unbelievably inconsistent the entire season. Here's my first awry guess. But halfway through, we're 3 for 3. National League Central now. Obviously, the Milwaukee Brewers closed that out. They won the division. The Chicago Cubs choked away their season and were unable to make the playoffs. We're going to get into that in a little second. But my pick, the Cincinnati Reds, missed the playoffs altogether. So I jumped on the bandwagon when they got really hot. Not enough experience on this team yet. Very, very exciting and talented young core, but the pitching staff is not where it needs to be yet. So that's wrong. American League West, surprise, surprise, the Houston Astros came on into the last day and swooped in and stole the American League West crown. We'll get into that next segment. We're going to talk about the last minute moves that happened. But I was right on that one. So we're 4 for 5 at the moment on divisions. And for some reason, I decided not to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers because I'm an idiot, and I went with the D-backs, and obviously the Dodgers won. But I'll take 4 out of 6. I'll take 4 out of 6. That's not bad. That's not bad. That is not bad. So we'll take it. But we talked about it a little bit there when I'm just telling you how my predictions went. Well, let's get into what happened over this course of this last week of the season to get us to the playoff picture we have now. So first of all, let me tell you the playoff picture. Today is Monday, October 2nd. Tomorrow, Tuesday, October 3rd, is the start of the 2023 postseason. The wild card round, everything is set. The wild card rounds are set. We're going to go with the American League wild cards first. The number 1 wild card seed is the Tampa Bay Rays. And so going into the last week, the Texas Rangers they were ahead of, going into the last day of the regular season, the Texas Rangers were ahead of the Houston Astros by 1 game, meaning if Houston were to lose or if Texas were to win, Texas takes the crown. But The only way for that to swap is if Texas loses and then Houston wins. And, of course, Texas loses 1-0 to Seattle in Seattle, and the Astros blow out the Arizona Diamondbacks, swoop in, take the division on the last day of the regular season, forcing the Texas Rangers to go to Tampa Bay to play against the Rays. So the Texas Rangers had this division for about 150 days out of the regular season. 150 days out of the 162. Very, very tough for them because now they're the 5 seed going on the road to Tampa Bay, who almost had 100 wins themselves. Not ideal for them. The other wild card series is Toronto, going to Minnesota to take on the Twins. So the Twins are that 3rd American League Division winner. That was kind of suspected. They were kind of the worst one going throughout the whole season. But interesting series this could be between them and Toronto. Toronto kind of held out there in that second wild card spot for the entirety of the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season. They were able to hold that strong. Moving over to the National League. The top wild card team in the National League is the Philadelphia Phillies. And after some crazy turn of events in the last season that I'm going to get into right now, they are going to be playing at home at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, the Miami Marlins, who had their first season above 500 since 2009 in a full season. Not the shortened season, because they did make the playoffs 2020, but that doesn't count. I guess it counts, but we're not talking about full seasons here. So, Thursday night. Or let's go back. Let's go back even farther. Last Thursday, Citi Field, vacant, not being played in. The Mets are on the road. There was a soccer game held at Citi Field. Game was played. Everyone went home. Friday comes around. Rain. Torrential rain in the New York City area. There was a tropical storm. The entire weekend it rained. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it rained. Monday it rained a little bit too. Tuesday, the Marlins show up to play their game. The field is underwater. It's a swamp. The tarp hasn't been on it for a single minute. They can't play on Tuesday. The Marlins are in a tight playoff race. They need to win every game they possibly can. At this point, Seiya Suzuki hadn't dropped that fly ball yet. They were behind. They were forced to play a doubleheader on Wednesday to ruin all their pitching. They split it against the Mets, which is not ideal. Francisco Lindor hits 3 homers on the day. The next day, they come back to play the Mets, Thursday night. They're losing 1-0. Top of the 9th inning, they score 2 runs to go up by 1 with 2 outs in the 9th inning. As soon as that happens, the skies open up and a torrential downpour pours on everyone. Rain delay, 3-hour rain delay. Marlins are up by 1 run in the 9th inning. They need to win this game. They need it for their postseason. 3-hour rain delay. They're looking for a pocket. They're seeing that there's a pocket that looks like it's not going to rain for 30 minutes at about 12:30 in the morning. Time gets there. The grounds crew pulls the tarp off of the field, puts it into left field, dumps all the water into left field, and then they stand around. It's not raining for 30 minutes, but the grounds crew is just standing around. Skip Schumacher, the manager of the Marlins, and the umpire, Alfonso Marquez, were both arguing with the grounds crew. Skip Schumacher was getting in the grounds crew man's face, yelling at him, telling him, what are you doing? Let's get this field ready to go. We have 30 minutes to go. And someone else is showing him the radar, trying to make excuses we can't do it. And I've never seen an umpire and a manager go at a grounds crew like that. It was insane, but the grounds crew ends up not doing anything. Skip Schumacher is trying to help him pull a tarp. He's doing it with him, but the grounds crew ends up not doing anything. They wait 35 to 40 minutes. It doesn't rain. All they need to do is get 4 outs in the game, which could have happened in 15 minutes, to be honest. They wait. Starts raining again. They have to put the tarp back on the field, so they all just sat there for 3.5 hours for absolutely nothing. The Mets grounds crew then proceeds to go in front of the Marlins dugout, who definitely are not very happy, and take a group picture, like a squad pic, in front of the Marlins dugout. So I would have been livid if I was a Miami Marlins player there, but game gets postponed. The Marlins, at that point, don't know whether they're going to have to come back, because this is Thursday night. There's 3 days left in the regular season, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have a game in Pittsburgh all 3 of those days. Last 3 games of the regular season. Regular season ends Sunday. What are they going to have to do? Come back to New York on Monday to play 4 outs to decide their season? Potentially, yes. That could have potentially decided the season for the Chicago Cubs, the Miami Marlins, and the Cincinnati Reds, barring certain circumstances. But the Marlins were able to go into PNC Park in Pittsburgh, take care of business, so they did not need to go back and play at Citi Field in New York. They won 2 games, so they were able to get themselves into the playoffs and were able to get an identical record as the Arizona Diamondbacks, who they hold the tiebreaker over to get the 5 seed. So that is the reason why the Miami Marlins will be traveling to Philadelphia to play the Phillies. Tough kind of draw for them, honestly, because the Phillies look dangerous right now. And like I said before, they look like a team that could maybe beat the Braves right now. The other wild card matchup is going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks, who I just talked about, and the Milwaukee Brewers, the last division winner in the National League. So the winner of that Arizona Diamondback Brewer series will go to Dodger Stadium to play the Dodgers in the NLDS. Winner of Marlins Phillies will play the Braves. The winner of Texas Tampa Bay will play the Orioles. And the winner of Minnesota Toronto will play Houston. So let's get into my predictions and who I think is going to win these wild card battles. So maybe you might see this later today, maybe tomorrow. Who knows? Wild card starts tomorrow, Tuesday, October 3rd at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Let me check what the first game is. The first game is Texas at Tampa Bay at 3 o'clock, Tuesday, October 3rd. So we'll start there. Texas at Tampa Bay. Interesting matchup here because Texas looked so crazy all year. That offense looked so good, and then they kind of sputtered for the last month and a half, and they kind of limped into the playoffs. So their pitching hasn't been great. Their bullpen hasn't been great. I'm going to take Tampa Bay in this series, which I think is going to be extremely disappointing for the Texas Rangers, obviously, as they were in the lead for, I said, 150 games this year. But that's going to be extremely interesting as the Tampa Bay Rays, I believe, will then travel to Baltimore to play the Orioles. And that's a division rivalry. They've been playing each other tough all year. That could be very interesting to watch in the playoffs. So they're starting off with the American League. The first thing they're going to go with Texas, Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay has a slight edge because of pitching, especially the bullpen. Texas's bullpen has not been great, but you know that if Texas starts to score a lot of runs, they could do anything in any series on any given day. So I'm taking Tampa Bay, but you never know. Can't count out that Texas offense, especially managed by Bruce Bochy. Second game, that's going to be on Tuesday, is going to be the second American League wildcard matchup. In Minnesota, Toronto Blue Jays versus the Minnesota Twins. This one's going to be kind of interesting as well because I believe Minnesota is going to be starting off with Pablo Lopez on the mound, their ace. That's going to be against the Toronto Blue Jays ace, Kevin Gausman, who is probably going to be a Cy Young candidate this year. So that could be an interesting game one, and I think whoever wins that game one is going to have the edge. And I'm going to give that slight edge to the Toronto Blue Jays, who I think will be able to squeeze this series out on the road in Minnesota. I've kind of thought Minnesota's been shaky all year, but I've been saying that all year, and I said it again about a month ago, and they kind of turned it on. They turned it on at exactly the right time. They're going into the postseason, riding probably the highest they have all year, but I think this Toronto Blue Jays team is pretty complete. Last year, they got eliminated in the wild card round by Seattle. This year, I think they're going to do it against a Minnesota team that I don't think is as good as them. But then they're going to have to go to Houston, and that's a different story. But we'll talk about that next time. The National League. First National League game tomorrow will be 7 o'clock. Arizona at Milwaukee. Arizona's going to have to go against Corbin Burnes there, that's for sure. Corbin Burnes, the ace of that Milwaukee staff. He's probably going to pitch against Zach Gallen. So some intriguing pitching matchups tomorrow. Gausman versus Pablo Lopez in that Minnesota-Toronto game, and most likely Zach Gallen and Corbin Burnes in that Arizona-Milwaukee game. And I don't know why. I have the inclination to take Arizona in this game. In this series, excuse me. I'm not sure why, but I just feel like the speed and you can disrupt a team just by running the bases aggressively and being smart with it. Everyone on that Diamondbacks team is capable of doing that. So if they're able to put together a complete series, I'm going to take Arizona. If Zach Gallen can give them a good start, Merrill Kelly can give them a good start in game 2, I think they can even win it in 2. So I'm going to take the Arizona Diamondbacks. Both leagues, I'm taking the 6-3 upset. I feel a little bit more confident with it in the American League, but we'll see what Arizona has to offer. And the final wild card matchup is going to be the Miami Marlins taking on the Philadelphia Phillies at Citizens Bank Park. And, I mean, to be honest, this is a really tough draw for Miami. Like, just with 2 days left to go in the season, they were on the outside looking in, or they were the 6th seed, right? But they ended up winning, getting the tiebreaker. They held the tiebreaker over pretty much every NL wildcard team that was around them. The Reds, who didn't even end up making the playoffs because they lost to the Cardinals in the last game of this, or the last series of the year. The Cubs blew the series after I thought that they were in by a bunch. They blew a series to the Atlanta Braves when they had it in their hands. All they had to do was catch a fly ball. Seiya Suzuki dropped the fly ball, let 2 runs score, ruined the season for the Cubs. The Marlins took the tiebreaker on them, and they also had the tiebreaker on the Diamondbacks. So honestly, if I'm Miami, I might have rather played the Brewers than the Phillies because the Phillies look extremely good right now. So I think I'm going to take the Phillies. I just think that lineup's too good. And they have Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. I think those guys, like last year, the same thing happened. Their lineup got hot at the right time, end of August, September, got really hot, rode that into the playoffs. Bryce Harper does what he does in the playoffs, and I bet it happens again. And then those 2 pitchers were able to figure it out when they needed them the most. I could see it happening again, and if they win, they got a date with the Atlanta Braves, who I could see them beating. And I would love to see that NLDS again, Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies. So those are my predictions for the wild card round. I've got Tampa Bay, Toronto, Arizona, and Philadelphia. We'll see how that holds out after I was 4 out of 6 on my division predictions, so you saw that. Not bad, but that's going to wrap up our 2023 regular season preview or recap and the 2023 postseason preview. So once this wildcard series wraps up, we get into a little bit more of this postseason. We'll talk a little bit more, but that's going to be it for the 2023 regular season, and we'll get to you for the next playoff episode. Peace out.